Hi, everybody. Welcome to Halifacts Oasis, episode 45. We're going to cover the last Board of Supervisors meeting and have some discussion. This is my fourth attempt, and I've invested probably 3 days in this because there's a lot of confusion that I'm trying to remove for you. First, let me say thanks for the feedback about the forensic audit. Sorry it went so long, but I try to do a segment once in a while called Lisa's Oasis that's supposed to be a catch-all of various topics, and I didn't realize that my analysis of the audit would go on for so long, so I should have spun that off into a separate thing. And that's kind of what I'm going to do here, because this got so confusing for me. Once again, I've had to set up a PowerPoint and a timeline to try and understand what happened at this last meeting, because it's almost like a domino effect from the two prior meetings. And what I'm going to try to do this time, I'm trying a new split screen tactic, and I'm also just going to get little clips from the meeting and sort of summarize most of it for you. I had expected a really big turnout because it was the public discussion of the forensic audit, but I think we only had 3 speakers, which they now have 2 cameras. I've put a link on the beginning of the webpage for Halifacts Oasis, the website, where you can click and find, these meetings on YouTube. So if you want details, quotes, etc., you can go watch it. I'm just going to highlight. And that's it. So let's get started. All right, let's try this again. I'm trying this new split screen thing, but I'm having sound issues. What I want to say is that at the beginning of this, you see there's the Board of Supervisors on the back row, back here, and this is the Planning Commission in front. Once a month, they have this joint meeting. The Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors meet to talk about what's going on or what's upcoming approvals, etc. So the beginning of this meeting, it was last Monday, April 21st, Planning Commission had 2 topics. One was declaring parts of Halifax County a tourism zone, and the second part was about the 5-year game plan for VDOT. And they had a presenter for each one. And you're going to see for the first time this dual camera. It moves around on the board, and then it also will flip if a citizen or presenter is talking. It's great. They have more audio. You can hear things better. There's still a couple glitches, so don't be too critical about it. I'm having glitches with my own system. It's really frustrating technology sometimes. But I'm just going to play you a little clip of each and kind of explain it, and then we're going to move on to the regular board meeting when the Planning Commission adjourns.
As Mr. Roller mentioned, our first public hearing tonight is the creation of a new zoning ordinance to amendment to our current zoning ordinance. This is to allow tourism zones. This is for attraction of more industries to give them more tax incentives and more creation of zones to help tax credits. So the experts are here tonight. RDA Director Brian Brown and our Tourism Director Latonya Hamilton. So I'm allow them to give you the overview why this is needed and what benefits to the county this will bring as we attract more industries to the county. Mr. Brown and Ms. Hampton, you present. Of course, we can ask any questions before we do the public hearing.
Thank you for allowing us to come and speak tonight.
Isn't that great?
We're excited about this opportunity. It's something we've kind of discussed for about 6 years, creating a tourism zone for our county. And this is really needed as I think about where some of our gaps are in our zoning opportunities and our incentive to our community. Yes. This is looking to help attract more housing, hotel development. To see our industries as well as for our tourism-based infrastructure. For sit-down style restaurants, which we have a lack of in the community. There we have. It's also to look in terms of music venues and outdoors for our community. So looking at the outdoors recreation aspect. This is a way for us to provide incentives based on those areas that we're looking at doing.
Okay, so he put everything in a nutshell. Everything after this is kind of gravy, explaining about the details of what the incentives are, tax breaks from the state that these businesses would get if they bring their business into the tourism corridor, as it's called. Hotels. So imagine on one end of the county by the VIR, something there, which could also be spillage from the casino. You know, they're building hotels like crazy in Danville if you haven't been there. Sit-down restaurants. Now, that's a lot different than fast food. He said we're kind of short of that. This is true. There's not a whole lot of sit-down restaurants in town. Music venues. Imagine how cool that would be to have like a concert hall or outdoor or whatever. Outfitters. I had to ask him in a later interview about what that was, and it meant outdoor activities such as, you know, tracks, hiking trails, things to, and of course that makes you instantly think of Edmonds Park. Be sure to watch an interview, the second interview I've done with Mr. Brown, it'll be coming out a day or two after this, and we talk about this in a lot more depth. That's another reason I'm not going into a lot of detail about this presentation at the board, because you'll learn more in the interview with him. And what else did he mention? And just outdoor recreation in general. So having the tourism infrastructure built up and filling the gaps, like I mentioned the VIR, also over by the fairgrounds, would just be great for the county. So this is such a good idea to become involved in this regional team, which it could be bigger than that. It might be national. The corridors they're speaking of, because they ask Ms. LaTanya later, are the 58 corridor, the 360, and the 501. So in other words, the three main arteries that run through Halifax County. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to show you is just a quick blurb on the VDOT guys. All right, and these are the two guys from VDOT that did a brief presentation and discussion about their plan. So what happened after this was the board approved to support both of these, the tourism zone and the VDOT 5-year plan. Then the planning commission was adjourned. So next you're going to see just the board up there, and before they actually started to get to business, Supervisor Claiborne brought up a violation of Robert's Rules of Order. So before I play that little clip, I want to show you what is Robert's Rules of Order. All right, trying to be brief, but a lot of people do not know what Robert's Rules of Order is. It's a simple guide to running meetings effectively and fairly. It's been around for some time. It's to provide structure, ensure fairness and order, and it protects majority and minority rights. The basic principles are one speaker at a time, address remarks through the chair, stay on topic, and respect all members. This is how it's supposed to go. You're supposed to have a call to order, minutes, reports, old business, new business, adjournment. So what is a motion? It's a proposal for action. It introduces business to the group, and it must be considered before action is taken. So here are the steps of a motion. It's made, it's seconded, it's stated by the chair, then you have debate or discussion, then you vote, and then the result is announced. Pretty simple, right? There's different types of motions. I'm not going to go into all of that. This is just sort of an overview. Debate rules are that the members must be recognized. You have alternative or alternate viewpoints when possible. No personal attacks, and stay relevant. You voice your vote by show of hands or ballot. The majority decides. Results are recorded in minutes. The role of the chair is to maintain order, recognize speakers, ensure the rules are followed, and announce the results. The main thing is structure and fairness to have an effective meeting. It's like anything in life. If we don't have rules, it's going to fall apart. We have laws for a reason. We have rules, we have structure. Follow procedure to ensure transparency and accountability. We're also supposed to do that with it. So there's you just kind of a brief overview of Robert's Rule of Order that the county's supposed to follow. All right, what you're going to see now is Chairman Roller try to start the regular board meeting, but is interrupted by Supervisor Claiborne because he wants to make a point of a violation of these Robert's Rules of Order. So let's listen to this.
Board of Supervisors.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
prior to, dealing with the next item, since we're still in the same meeting, we're in, April 6th. I'd like to raise a point of order. The point of order that I want to raise is clear and succinct. On March 26th, prior to the approval of these minutes, on March 25th, 2026, there was a finance committee meeting. In that finance committee meeting, there was a recommendation that was supposed to come forward before the entire board of supervisors to allow, Ms. Stephanie Jackson to come in to give information um, dealing with, budget and dealing with financial affairs. That came out of the committee meeting. Proper protocol and procedure will call for that to be prior to gather to the full committee, to the full board. Well, never did. The main, can I just finish the discussion? According to procedure and procedural process, you were entitled to state our opinion on all board members prior to any vote of bringing in Ms. Jackson. And that goes for anything that we do. We did not get the opportunity as a full board to pass that measure. And I would ask that, that would be put on the record as being a violation. And, I would ask that the chair rule according to Robert's Rules of Order.
All right, let's pause there and put this camera back up. All right, that's a lot that's been a lot for me to digest, honestly. So here's what I've come up with, other than not doing split screen very well. There we go, that's a little better. All right, so what Mr. Claiborne is saying is that there's a violation of Robert's Rules of Order because there was a discussion about bringing Stephanie Jackson back to help in this financial stuff. And it's not one thing, it's two things. It's the can't do the budget till they reconcile last year, so it was an annual audit. And then there's the forensic audit. Okay? So he is saying that a recommendation was made. Let me get my notes here. I don't want to get this wrong. In a financial meeting 325, it was not discussed before the board. So I went back through the minutes for 325 and I could not find any motion made, nor a formal recommendation. In fact, County Administrator Braid said that he needed to get word from the outside agencies if they were going to conduct an investigation or not. For example, the Virginia State Auditing Services, and there's two or three others. One of them was like the Attorney General's office, I think. But he was waiting to get word back if they were going to do any investigation, because if they were, it wouldn't be suitable or to bring her back in. But that's why there was no discussion, because there was no vote, there was no motion, and you saw Robert's Rules of Order how you're supposed to do that. And this was also a finance meeting, but all meetings, I think I can't say all, but most meetings use Robert's Rules of Order. So then there was a meeting on. I've got so many. Look at this, just notes everywhere, trying to get this straight. Ew, why's my hair weird looking? So on 4/6, at the next board meeting, the regular board meeting, after the executive session, there was a motion made to retain her, and there was a discussion held. In fact, Mr. Claiborne held the most discussion probably. If you look at the video for the board meeting on 4/6 at the 5-minute marker until the 10.5-minute marker. Mr. Claiborne was discussing this. So I'm a little puzzled. I know that the minutes of the 325 meeting weren't put up right away, and God bless Miss Kemp. I don't know how she does that job. If I had to keep up with all the meetings minutes, I'd lose my mind. But anyway, so he's saying that he didn't have the minutes, so he could not read them to know what was discussed about Stephanie Jackson, and the only way he knew was he read about it in the newspaper. Now, the motion to retain her happened on 4/6. The article in the Gazette was on 4/7. They reported that they made a motion to bring Stephanie Jackson back. And poor Miss Jackson, I feel sorry for her. She's being talked about so much. Reminds me of a song. I'm sorry, Miss Jackson. Now, that means between 325 and 4/6, someone told me there was another Gazette article mentioning it, but I can't find it to save my life. I've looked everywhere. So if somebody knows about that, let me know. But Mr. Claiborne's saying that he didn't get to read the minutes from the 325 finance meeting where they talked about her, but made no motion or formal recommendation, and Mr. Braid actually put out the caveat that these investigations have to come back saying they're not doing investigations, or these outside entities. And then in the 4/6 meeting, they made the motion to retain her, and it was very specific that the motion to retain her in the 4/6 meeting was for the annual audit only, so they could reconcile the budget for next year, not the forensic audit. And there was a discussion held. On 4/7, the Gazette reported this after this discussion was held. Now, in the last meeting, the one we're at right now, that's what he just said. He said in this meeting that there was no discussion about it. So I'm puzzled about how Mr. Claiborne is saying this is a violation of Robert's Rule of Order, that the board did not follow their own rules of how this should go. Because clearly there was a discussion made after the motion, and that's my understanding, and I think that was kind of clear in the PowerPoint of the Robert's Rules of Order, the order they go in. If they're in another meeting, like the finance meeting of 325, and they mention, hey, maybe we should bring her back, and somebody says, hey, well, we can't, we should do this, blah, blah, blah. That's not a formal vote, motion, it's not even a formal recommendation. It was a discussion. So I'm kind of feeling like Mr. Claiborne didn't read the minutes of that. He said he had to read about it in a newspaper article, which I don't understand because the newspaper article came out 4/7. But given the benefit of the doubt, let's say there was another article. He read about that, and then they sprung this motion to bring her back at the 4/6 meeting. Maybe that's what the bone of contention is. But I did not see a violation of Robert's Rules of Order. And this got me to thinking, why is this getting to be so bogged down? You guys, I've spent 2-3 days on this trying to understand and figure it out, reading minutes, reading articles, and I'm telling you, these things just go through forever, and I'm trying to figure out what the stumbling block is, and quite frankly, I think it's Mr. Claiborne. I've called him, I've emailed him, I've tried to get him to talk to me, to address this, to give me some clarification so I understand what's happening. Because I do know from all my prior research, she resigned after he became the chairman of the board because he wouldn't let her in budget meetings, and she, quite frankly, said he was harassing her. I have sent out a FOIA for the transcripts of the audit group, Premier group that did the forensic audit, to get a full transcript of those interviews, because I think that would be interesting to see what was said. I only had notes, what I presented to you before. So what I've done is I'm trying to create a timeline to understand this as well. Again, I'm a very visual learner. But I said this before about being an obstructionist. I kind of feel like this is coming up again. Before I say anything else, let me show you what I came up with here. So here's a little timeline I made. Let me blow this up for you, because I'm trying to understand this. I really want to understand this. On March 25th, there was a finance meeting. If you look at those minutes on page 44, County Administrator Braid stated if no external investigations proceed then maybe they could consult with Ms. Jackson. And Board of Supervisors Smart agrees with County Attorney Braid. On page 45, Smart again advocates for Jackson, and County Administrator Braid repeats the prior statement, but adds the caveat that this is only for the annual audit so that they can proceed with the 2027 budget, which I think is due in June. They need to do that. Now, they had another April 2nd finance meeting, and item 3 says there's a budget discussion, but I can't find the complete minutes. I've been through it over and over, and I've left messages with Ms. Kemp, and they may not just be up yet because these are intense. These are hundreds of pages to be done, on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. But then we have here the, come on, Mouse, get back over here. We have April 6th board meeting, which is the one where the motion was made to retain Ms. Jackson. A discussion was held. Like I said, Mr. Supervisor Claiborne talked about it at length, like the 5-minute mark to the 10.5-minute mark. Then the next day is when the Gazette reported this. All right, so now come to the most recent meeting that we're talking about. What is this? Sorry, these are all notes I've got everywhere. So come back to this most recent meeting, and he's saying that this should have been discussed and it was breaking the rules. But I hope I've kind of shown you that that is not the case. It's nebulous at best, or at worst. So they voted about this breach of rules, and it was denied. In other words, they said, we're not going to do it. So now he wants to appeal. And let me skip to that bit.
I do know that, according to that, there was, an item that we were going to discuss in closed session, but we did postpone any discussions regarding the forensic audit. And that's what that was about. The motion at that meeting, did not regard.
Not the motion I'm referring to, we motioned to table anything, dealing with anything coming out of the finance committee on March 25th until tonight. That was the essence of that motion. And it was a unanimous approval by this board to table anything coming out of that finance committee on March 25th until tonight. And I just asked the chairman to rule on that, whether it was a violation or not.
We have legal counsel here. You've heard his concern. Let's do it.
All right, let me pause for a minute here. Now, because first he was saying that there should have been a discussion about a recommendation for study. And now he's saying that nothing in that finance committee was supposed to be discussed. So now it's kind of changed. It's not the same as it was initially. And he thinks that any discussion that came out of that was a violation. So now he's going to ask the lawyer, and the lawyer, of course, is going to punt and say, I'm not giving legal advice in public. We can do it in closed session. But they're going to put it up for a vote.
It's seconded by Supervisor McDowell.
Okay.
We need a roll call vote. So
And this is on, will the violation go forward?
Yes vote would mean that,
No,
you're not upholding my rule of order. No vote means you are, siding with my rule of order. So roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Riddle?
yes.
Chair Roller?
No.
Supervisor Oaks?
No.
Supervisor Witt?
No.
Vice Chair Smart?
No.
Supervisor Thompson?
No.
Supervisor McDowell?
Yes.
Supervisor Claiborne?
Yes.
Are you seeing the pattern here? This is what I'm trying to get to the psychology behind. Why is this? Because this is not
So
teamwork.
that motion fails. To now move to approval of minutes. We have the March 25th, 2016 Board of Supervisors Finance Committee meeting, pages 41 through 49, and April 2nd, 2026 Board of Supervisors Finance Committee meeting, pages 50.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it there because now they're having to approve 2 meetings, the 25th and the 6th, because they just weren't ready in time. Okay. Now I think we can finally get to the 3 citizens who commented on the forensic audit. The first one's Ms. Champion. She makes some really good points. We'll listen to her a bit, and then we have a couple other people.
Comments regarding the forensic audit discussion, maybe they didn't express their opinion, but we all have a section that this meeting for citizens' comments, and it's related strictly to forensic audit discussion. Anyone that wishes to comment, please come forward, state your name and address, and you have 3 minutes.
I love the 2 cameras. That's just amazing.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Champion, and I live in Halifax County. And I'm here to address actions taken in closed session earlier this month that raised serious concerns about the transparency and integrity taken by the Board of Supervisors. First, I would like to address the need of an apology from the members of the Board of Supervisors to James Gordon and Mr. Randy Bailey for actions taken against them in which they spoke at the April 6th meeting. During that session, Councilperson Robbie Smart introduced a motion, seconded by Supervisor Jeff Oakes, supported by multiple members, to grant the county administrator approval to allow Stephanie Jackson to return in a supervised fashion. This raises important questions. In a prior public meeting, it was clearly stated that anything related to the forensic audit would be tabled until tonight, yet this action proceeded regardless. Concern is not only the decision itself, but how it was handled. The apparent shift in language from audit to budget creates the impression that the public was misled. Whether intentional or not, actions taken in closed session appear to contradict statements made publicly that erodes confidence in this board and its commitment to accountability. It undermines trust and suggests that decisions are being made in ways that avoid public scrutiny.
Okay, I want to pause it there. Because if you go back and read the minutes of all the meetings I just talked about, looked at the agendas, read the minutes, said what the decisions are, etc., they did agree to table. Excuse me. I'm getting a cold from this crazy weather. Anyway, they did agree to table discussion of the forensic audit. The discussion they did have was about Stephanie Jackson. Got to clear those hurdles of investigations, number 1. Number 2, they would bring her in only in it would be a voluntary role to help them so that they could get the 2027 budget done. Every year you have to have an audit to reconcile to get the budget for the next year. So they didn't discuss the forensic audit. It hasn't been discussed. That's what's going to happen at this meeting, as they said they would. I can understand how people can see that differently. I can, but having gone through pages and pages and talked to a lot of people, I don't agree. I don't think that they broke a rule of order. I don't think that they did a switch and bait on you. For some reason, this financial director that left is really pushing buttons with people. But anyway, let her continue, because she is a very interactive citizen, and I really appreciate that.
I'm asking that any discussion of what supervised fashion will entail be brought into open session. It's an opportunity for public input before any final decisions are made. The community deserves to understand what is being proposed and what we have a voice in that process. At the end of the day, the public deserves a board that adheres to its own governing standards of conduct. Standards that many of you appear to be falling short of. How we can meaningfully process being made when there is such visible division amongst board members.
Yep.
I ask that you seriously consider how you speak and respect one another and county residents. Right now, the tone and conduct on display undermines the credibility of this board in the public eye. On April 1st of 2021, Town Manager Tom Robb explained to the County Treasurer's Office how they had been overpaid $265,000. It took 6 months for the County of Halifax to discover that we had overpaid them by 6 months. So my question to the board is, what other oversights have we overpaid? And what is not being taken fully into account on the forensic?
Okay, I just want to interject here. That was something that Ruth Oakes, who was the treasurer at the time, made the mistake. She was relying on information from another person that I think it was like 20 counties used this person's calculations, and they weren't right. It was something to do with sales tax. And 6 payments were made before it was caught, and that's kind of a thing, a purpose with this. There was nothing shady or nefarious about it. And I read the newspaper article. She was interviewed, and she did say that was my mistake. I'm human. And one of the headlines was something like, my bad, I made a mistake, because this is going to be brought up later, so bear that in mind. But that was all taken care of. And she said if it wasn't for town of South Boston being honest, which I kind of don't agree with. I mean, that's just a matter of other checks and balances that would have caught it, and it was rectified, and it was a mistake. I mean, yeah, that's not good. We're not cheering it and saying that's okay, but I don't think it's a good example. Well, maybe it is a good example. However, I feel like there's a slight implication of something nefarious being done, and that I don't agree with. Anyway, let's go back.
Audit. I think we need a full forensic audit. We've overpaid the town $265,000. How many contractors or other people in this town have we overpaid that have not been discovered? And how many overpayments to the VRS system have we made that were discovered in the forensic audit that is costing the taxpayers money?
See, and those things we won't know till they do it. However, this was, I lost my train of thought. This overpayment was a normal payment. It just paid too much based on a wrong calculation. That's what I think I was trying to say.
For your time.
All right, and then next we've got, oh gosh, I can't remember. I've watched this video like 3 or 4 times.
Anyone else?
Yes. Oh yeah, it was Karen Fisher, and I liked what she had to say. I felt that was fair and balanced.
Karen Fisher, and I live at 248th Street. Mr. Witt is my representative. Thank you. I just had a few questions about the audit. One is, I don't understand how we paid officers $50,000 minimum for any on-site visits, do any in-person interviews.
That's exactly what I said.
And then how did they decide who they were going to interview? Why didn't the auditors interview payroll benefit specialists, payroll clerks who could have provided the necessary documents that they said were missing? The payroll benefit specialists had been interviewed. The auditors would have been given a good explanation for the inconsistencies with payroll earnings. If the payroll benefit specialist and the payroll clerk had been interviewed, evidence related to supervisory approval of employee timesheets would have been explained. Failure of Premier to come on site and to interview the appropriate staff is what information was not provided. Why wasn't the interim finance director able to locate the documents? Why didn't she ask for help from the finance department employees? As for the many inaccuracies in the report, apparently auditors relied on information from some former and current Board of Supervisors members without verifying if the information was true or false. Speaking to the Halifax County Treasurer would have cleared up any suspicion of the former finance director. Incorrect information provided could have been corrected by talking to the treasurer, who would have confirmed that the finance director had no access to bank accounts, deposits, or any role to play with collection of revenue. Why did the auditors even interview any of the board of supervisors? If they were going to interview any of them, why didn't they interview all of them? After the audits 2020, 21, 22, 23, and 24 passed by unanimous vote, if one board member had any suspicions about finance, the
Yep.
former finance director,
Yep.
wouldn't that discussion be reflected in the minutes? In the end, Premier needs to come on site, talk to the appropriate staff, review the documentation, all of which is available, and rewrite the audit report without challenging the county another dime. And lastly, y'all need to learn how to play together. So I would recommend that you have a retreat,
Did.
professional team building experts, and figure out how you can move forward together the betterment of our county. Thank you.
I'm behind what you said 100%, but they did have a retreat, but I don't think all of them attended. It was probably 5-3 like everything else.
Anyone else?
Jerry White. Obviously, we have a problem in this county with trust and transparency. The last meeting, y'all said one thing before the public, and by the time I got home, I was in a closed meeting doing something else. Doing exactly what you said you would do. And also, I would like to say to Jeff Oaks, would like to ask you to abide by the same rules and code of conduct that we have to. Chief was no, I like to say a cuss word or two. If I can't, you can't. Thank you.
All right, that was a local digital creator. If you don't know her, she's got I guess you call it a podcast. I don't know, called Mochief and Nose, I think. I've met her a couple times. What she said at the beginning about you said one thing and did another, she's referring to the same thing we were just talking about that Supervisor Claiborne said, that they weren't supposed to discuss the forensic audit. And then they made the motion to retain voluntarily Stephanie Jackson to help with the annual audit, the budget. So I have to disagree with that. But I do certainly agree. Supervisor Oaks used the word ass in the last meeting, and that's what she's referring to, that if we can't use foul language, you can't use foul language. And I have to agree with her. You know, professionals don't do that. And as a acting board of supervisor member, you should curb that temper and watch your language. And that was the end of the public discussion. I just couldn't believe it. I was really surprised. I did a live feed before and after to get some comments, and there was more there than there was in the meeting itself. All right, so the next section is the board discussing the forensic audit, and it starts with Supervisor McDowell saying that he asked for an audit when he first started, and he saw flags that figures between the board and the school board didn't match, and he wanted to know why Miss Jackson wasn't working with the auditors. Well, no, he couldn't get the vote to get a forensic audit done. Nobody could get a vote, so I don't understand that. I guess, you know, because I don't know when he started, but he was in the majority for at least 2 years, and Mr. Claiborne says he was, you know, having doubts about things. Why didn't he vote for that forensic audit? Because McDowell just said that he tried to get an audit some time ago, but he couldn't get the votes for it. And he's asking why Miss Jackson didn't cooperate with auditors. Well, by now, I think it's clear we all know she resigned in February, and that RFP wasn't even put out for the audit until July. And after that, Scott Simpson, the county administrator, was fired. So she wasn't anywhere around or near when this audit came up to cooperate. Let's see. I just don't want to go through this whole thing. But there was a couple salient points.
The question is, why didn't Miss Jackson work with the auditors from the start? I don't understand that. You're talking about she was 20 years experience in the minute system. So why wasn't all of this information documented When I was at the bus garage, we had this system. You had to keep up with everything, even down to the bulk. My question is, why wasn't this done in that 20 years?
Okay, quick pause. There was an audit done every year, and they approved it every year. Just really feel
Anyone
like
else?
shades being thrown.
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to respond to what Mr. McDowell said because I think it characterized it improperly.
Well,
I don't know how Ms. Jackson would have been able to participate in the forensic audit, having left employment with the county in February of last year. Audit wasn't even, the RFP didn't go out until July.
Okay, that's exactly what I just said. So let's skip ahead a little bit.
It was brought to everybody's attention there was a conflict of interest having her here. The Code of Virginia says there is no conflict of interest. So
Okay.
she resigned from the position. She was helping us. No, you have to have stumbling blocks every time we turn around. And yes, I get mad about it. Yes, I'm a passionate person. I love Halifax County, and the people that don't love Halifax County need to do better. She wasn't.
All right, he's on a little bit of a tangent there, but I appreciate that passion. That's good. Let's see. I want to hear from the next guy, which I believe was.
Sets are the three state entities which you had suggested they would reach out to.
That's Mr.
Have
Burke.
all said they were not doing any further investigation.
Right.
Me, the answers to the question that I think people have had about her involvement, such that now it seems to be the appropriate time to ask her to provide the documentation. So
Right.
I have put a recommendation to the board to allow her to provide us that information, assuming she can identify it, and then provide that back to the Premier Group to adjust their audit based on any additional information that she would have. I didn't do that beforehand because the majority of the time that this audit was covering, she was the finance director. And so it just, to me, didn't seem appropriate at that time.
Okay, so what he's saying is that she wasn't there during the audit, but prior, they asked for, I think, 4 years, and obviously she was the finance director 3 of those 4 years, or a section of time that was there. But she was not employed during the time the audit was requested or conducted. All right, it's so much of this is so redundant. The bottom line is, what they passed was they approved to rehire, so to speak, the Premier Group to update the audit with the assistance of a volunteer request Ms. Jackson to come and say, hey, here's this and that. She won't access anything. She won't be in control of anything. She's just going to kind of point, do this, do that, or tell them and the treasurer and whoever how to do it. That's number one. And that's going to cost, I think it's $37,000. And if they come here in person, it's $2,500 a pop, another $5,000. So we're looking at probably another $40,000. And they paid them $50,000. Hey, y'all want to pay me 6 figures to look at your record? I'll learn how to do it. Anyway, I get frustrated with the money too and the expense. The second thing they approve is hiring the Berkeley group to fix everything, to get the systems in place, make sure there's policies and handbooks and cross-training so everybody knows how to use Munis, etc. And then there was a third thing. All right, and now we're going to have some more comments from Mr. Claiborne.
Board discussion.
Something else to say, and listen to everything you've been saying. I know something. All of us up here are supposed to have common sense. All of us are supposed to be able to know what's right and wrong.
Common sense comes with emotional intelligence. And I think there's some emotion going on behind the scenes. I think there's some backstory that I'm working on. I don't think there's a sense of camaraderie or teamwork at all. And the people being punished for that are the citizens of this county.
Now, It's one of the few times that I agree probably with Supervisor Oates. He stated that we had a lady with 20 years experience in Munis and as a finance director. 20 years experience. If we sit here tonight talking about discrepancies, question to every one of you. I know a lot of you are in the audience too. You all have common sense. If those things were missing over a 20-year period, tremendous. And I made a statement, I think, last meeting about when I've been inquiring about this for years.
Okay, got to stop there. If you've been inquiring about it for years, why did you approve it every year? Why now? See, this is what was it? Oh, somebody called me the girly detective. That was hilarious. But I do. My mind asks these questions. Why now? Why so much now? It's like there's an open door or given opportunity to throw somebody on the bus or shade them. And I'd like to know why. I've been told some stories that I'm checking into, but I really didn't want to make it an issue. But because this is still going on with this staffing and auditing and finance with the county, I feel almost compelled to, especially the fact that here you are screaming about transparency and you won't even answer my phone calls or, my emails. That kind of sucks. So he goes on a fair bit about this. And even though he said he agrees with Oaks, he only agrees that the lady was employed for 19 years it was technically. That's the only thing he's agreeing with. He's saying that he said for years there were discrepancies, yet he voted to pass budgets every year. And this forensic audit was only brought up after he took over the board, and she quit because she said he was harassing her and wouldn't let her in budget meetings. And then he fired the county administrator. So I wish anybody, no matter what your politics are or what you feel, looked at that big picture and what conclusions would you come to? Or what could you infer? Not even a conclusion. What could you infer? But this kind of goes on for, well, I clocked it. It's at 50.27 until 105.07. So we're looking at a good 16 minutes. And there isn't a resolution or a motion out of this.
We don't vote about.
As some might know, Chris Vaughn acted as the airport manager. We discussed with the airport committee going back to something we've done earlier where we had an on-site airport manager. To that end, I had asked the county administrator to draft proposed request for RFP for operation.
Okay, that was the other thing. Yeah, it was kind of doing what's it called, a request for proposals about airport management. So that's pretty much the sum total of this meeting. Sorry, I got long-winded again, no matter what, but I'm not going to talk about anything else. There you have it. There's my take on the last Board of Supervisors meeting. I really hope that we can pull this county together. Have a good one.